Let me know if you can hear me or anything, any sound. Hopefully things are working. I'll be sat here for a bit. I'll move over to the chair if we need to perform or anything. Feel free to ask any questions about anything. Hope you're well, Sam. Obviously we're using the Helix today. Is it working? So the only thing that I'm having issues with is that my backing tracks are out of time, essentially, with my actual playing, which is frustrating. There doesn't seem to be a lot I can do about it. So I've set an offset. It may work or it may not. Yeah, it makes me sound a little bit later than I would be. Alright Jim, how you doing, buddy? What I mean by working is there some tepid guitar playing happening on a camera? And can you hear that tepid guitar playing? I'll just do some playing whilst we wait for some people to ask questions. Jim, you might have some serious questions about gear or stuff. Sam, you might have some questions that are serious about gear and jazz and stuff. Feel free to ask them. We'll probably go for maybe 45 minutes, an hour, or less if no one gets involved. But yeah. Right, so here's the tune that I played a couple of times early on. I think the thing is we'll be able to speak to all viewers individually if this stream carries on like this, so that'd be cool. Clive. Hey Eric. Eric asks, is it normal to have Helix patches sound so low, even with the volume knob all the way up and quarter inch out? No, maybe the first place that I would look would be channel volume on the amp block. I sounded like Ted Green. Unfortunately, I just sound a bit like whatever I sound like. Angle makes the neck look tiny. Let me have a look. I can't see what the angle is. Oh, right. I could sit in that chair. Or what else could I do? Guess I could move that. That as well, and hopefully, no, it's probably no better. It's literally just angled, so it's just focusing on the calyx. That's a bit better. Right, so what else does anyone want to talk about? Jim has just retracted a comment. Maybe it was to do with the neck. Maybe he's trying to find an angle that would reduce his neck. Right, yeah, so feel free to talk about whatever you want. Hopefully guitar bass probably be stuff that's gonna make most sense. Is this actually staying in focus? I guess I could just leave it in focus there. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Cool, right. Lego money have you got? Maybe an FM9 if you're not needing Well, Jim, it's a great question, and I really like the twist at the end there, where it's revealed that a baby has died. I think that's nice. Um, yeah, Jim can carry a lot of water from the well. Yeah, the FM9, as someone who has the FM3 and the Active X3, it makes sense to sort of try one out for the channel, but in terms of what it actually does outside of what I've already got, it doesn't really make a whole world of sense, but that's kind of the gear world, isn't it? I'm looking for a preset that I made earlier. This one. Right. Anyone got anything sensible to say? Now's the time. Let's try this again. Let me know if the levels are okay. I'm going to try and play some guitar. Any questions are very welcome. So, Eric asks, sometimes I want to play my new Helix LT and then have unlimited options phobia. I guess another word for that would be homophobia. No, sorry, another word for that would be option paralysis. So it's quite a common thing, they've got a name for it. What do you do when you want to search for tones but it seems too overwhelming and causes you to avoid playing at all? So that for me is the benefit of having tones that I really know that I like and that inspire me to play already. So for me, those are things like Eric Lead, which is in my preset pack, Eric Clean, some of the Freeze presets. And I know anytime that I go to record jazz that I want to use the dual jazz tone, so that when I'm wanting to just play, I have kind of places that I know that I can go to. I'm not pulling up new patches all the time. I'm going for ones that I know that I like. And then the other thing that I might do is, if I want to try something a bit different, is take those existing presets as the template and then switch in or out one or two things at a time, rather than building from scratch every time, if that makes sense. So I might just be changing one aspect of it. So it might be a drive pedal that I might change, or I might change the amp, or I might change the cab, or I might change the delay or the reverb. But I'm not, if I'm wanting to be playing guitar, I'm not going and building a new preset every time, if that makes sense. I'm going and I'm finding ones that I know and like, or building ones that I know and like. And like the Eric Lead is a preset that I built a couple of years ago now, and I know how that sounds and I know what to expect with each guitar. So that's kind of just one that I go to often, if that makes sense. Tom asks, do I have any thoughts on whether an Axe-Fx 2 XL Plus is still a good option as to simply buying an FX3? Well, I guess you'd be paying like less than half the price, so cost might be the only real benefit, and you might get like a floorboard or something included as well. Clive, I'll have to look at Cantilever Island. I'll get up the sheet and see what I can find. Can't say it's a tune that I know off the top of my head. Where's it gone? Mine is a D flat 7. There you go, that's the note. So the sheet is saying F minor to D flat 7. So I'm going to just work out for me what I would play over that. What about creating new tones? How do you create brand new tones without feeling option paralysis? So again, I might go into it with the idea that I want to create a tone. So a lot of mine might be like exploration of new amp models. So what would I be doing? I find something that I'm specifically looking for. So whether it's like, I find the orange rocker verb was one of the things that I used this week. I'll go and get the manual for it and I'll look through it and I'll see what cabs people use with it in the real world, and that's a way that I build the preset. Yeah, I mean, you get to know, I think, fairly quickly where you're comfortable on the Helix. You know, you might have 2 or 3 models that you really like. So for me, that's Litigator, Derailed, Ingrid, maybe the Lone Star Channel 1 and 2 are really cool. But you start to get a feel for the ones that you really like. So those places are where you're kind of comfortable, if that makes sense. Or like the Glitz reverb is my go-to reverb. So the option paralysis is less of an issue because I know a few elements that I really like the sound of. So I'm not always picking from a full pool, if that makes sense. So we're going F minor. So that's what I'm hearing. So going between just an F minor that as like chord 4 of a blues. So that D flat, I'd be thinking of. And instead of going back to the A flat, you're going back to the F minor. Yes, I use 10 to 46 on my strats. Keep the questions coming, that's cool. Sorry. So Eric, did you find this channel from the whatchamacallit, the Line 6 artist, whatever it was called, campaign? So the reason for the signal path being like that is because essentially it was started off as being a I started off with an HX stomp basically, and so the Eric clean was the clean preset that I started off with, and then the Eric lead. So those were just two separate lines. They were separate presets in the HX stomp, and one of the first things that I decided to do with the Helix was try and put those two together, because you've obviously got two signal paths, and have it switching so that I had a Eric Johnson kind of clean rig and Eric Johnson dirty rig, and that's what that preset is based off. So that's why they're just on two discrete lines. And it's an approach that kind of works quite well, I think. But obviously there are other ways to skin that cat. Some people don't use the second signal path at all. Some people don't really seem to know that it's there. Other people will run signal path 1A into 2A, like you say. You know, there's templates and stuff where people are doing that from Line 6 themselves. There's a template called 2 tones AB, I think it's called, or something like that. That one's quite cool. It'd probably be more efficient to run it in a different way, but that works for me. Yeah, there's other ways. So you could do it in super serial. So I think there is a manual, part of the manual which discusses signal paths, is pretty useful and worth a read, I think. And that D flat 7, Clive, coming back to you, we could also have it as home as part of A flat melodic minor. Hopefully that's vaguely helpful. I can probably do a bit of a loop thing. I don't know the tune properly, but I'll just show you how I'd approach those two chords. And we want a looper, stereo. We'll do one switch, that seems ample. And put it on here. Right, any other questions, please feel free to fire away. You missed all sorts of stuff, Sam. There was a thing with a cow, there was a thing with a dog, all sorts. 2, 3, 4. That's not right. I'm using a Helix looper. Just go back to the blues. Helix. So you say it then goes to D minor. So what will we get then? 1, 2, 3, 4. Shoot that D minor as just a straight thingy. Hold on, I just found something else there. Let me just find the sheet for it again to get the. So just go from D minor to F minor. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. We run out of time. Balls. What if I put it on get it. Yeah, so the D minor I treat as a Dorian thing, I think. Where have we gone? Do I do private lessons? Not really. How I'd approach that. So I'm maybe thinking of E flat major for this F minor. So I think this crunch thing means different things to different people. So I've heard even like John Petrucci using the word crunch, and for me it's like a super high gain rhythm tone when he talks about crunch. Whereas for me, I think of crunch as being literally like on the edge of breakup, which is obviously not what everyone means by it. But I find like the AC30, the Matchless, the Derailed Ingrid are really nice models for that sort of thing, I think. Clive, I might not go for melodic minor every time, so I'm finding it easier to think about that one as maybe like A flat blues. So for that, sorry, for the D flat 7, you've got quite a lot of options, but I'm thinking maybe A flat blues or like A flat minor pentatonic as one of my kind of key things, or like B major pentatonic. But another really key home for it is this kind of A flat melodic minor. So that's the other kind of thing that I'm thinking of. But you don't necessarily need to play it the same every time through as well. So another thing I'm doing is, so you've got these F minor things, so those could either be chord 2s or chord 6s, so you've got kind of two options for each of those. That's one of the cool things about this kind of modally jazz, which I guess this would fit into. So I'll now go back. Nice progression. Things that I'm used to try to do when doing this, you try and like keep some common note. And you know, connecting chords which aren't super well connected is sort of one of the tricks of fusion. But that for me is the key. Kind of figure out where is home for each chord, and then you try and link those up in your playing as best as possible. Max Sebastian asked how to get this tone. So I'm using a Helix right now, and what I'm doing, I'm running the derailed Ingrid preamp into the litigator amp, and you know, then a traditional kind of setup after that, so an EQ, a cab, a delay and a reverb. So yeah, that's basically the core of the tone, is that derailed Ingrid preamp into the litigator, which has a kind of cool tone, I think. You know, the other thing you could do is try and conquer it. Should be, shouldn't it? Instead of just trying to play fast all through it, that might be, I'd start off with melodies. I might try and play across the chain. Got lost. Oh, Sam, you don't have to do that. Thank you very much. Will we ever see the return of the lockdown hair and beard? Is it out of the question that we'll have more lockdowns? I imagine we might get more. Probably you won't see my hair grow quite that long for a little while, because I'm getting married in, what is it, 2 months, less than 2 months now, so I'll have to look half decent for that, I imagine, or as much as I can. my favourite chord at the moment. I'm trying to shoehorn that in. Experience, you saying that Sam? We're talking this chord here. Asks, can I break down that arpeggio exercise? So what you want to do, I think there's a lesson on the channel somewhere about it. Let me find it. What would it be called? Like major? Oh, I think it'd be this. This might be the most concise way I've got to show you it, but I'll just talk about it a second. See you later, Sam. I hope you're well. We'll chat on Facebook in a sec. Use your ring finger on the B string. Like that. So anyway, the arpeggio exercise. So basically what we're doing is taking this kind of structure. So we got 1, 5, 6. So these are like the interval functions. 3, 4, and then 1. So 1, 5, 6, 3, 4, 1. And then you just move that up and keep that. So everything moves up 1. So that's that. You could do that like melodic minor and stuff as well, but you're just staying diatonic and keeping those relationships the same. So 1, 5, 6, 3, 4, 1. And just moving that diatonically. And you can also move it through key changes as well, which sounds kind of cool. Roma, sorry, asks, speaking of chords, how do you learn internalize new voicings and fingerings, running through cycle of fourth and such? So not so much for me. The way that I try to think of chords and stuff is like you use them or you lose them. So I would try and, so like this thing, if I hear this sound, I'd try and find other places where I could use it. So the place that I used to use it was in the tune I'll Be Seeing You. Somewhere like that. So I'd be listening to what that chord sounds like and try and think of other places I could use it. So one of them has been that sort of thing. That's kind of how I try to think of some things, and then there, like you say, there might be other things. So if I like the sound of this particular chord, one of the exercises that I did was try and find the other inversions of this. And like that. So that exercise, I find all of this stuff takes quite a lot of time, but you kind of hope that some of it sticks. Moving through the cycle of fourths and stuff might also be definitely worth doing, but I find I try and like to put it in some sort of context so that I have like a mental note of where to pin it to, if that makes sense. It's the same with kind of arpeggios and stuff as well. So there was a thing that I found a while back like this, where I sort of noticed that the extensions of like an F dominant also spell like a D major. So I tried to make use of that idea. My Secret Machine asks, is that a new K line? And it's been on the channel a few times, but I guess it still counts as newish. But it's British Racing Green, which comes across as black in most lights. Do you suggest any books for technique? What would your suggestion be for an intermediate guitarist to learn more? For me, I think learning a lot of like songs and stuff would be the most useful thing. So even as an intermediate guitarist, you could be getting work as a guitarist, which I think is what ultimately can, you know, get you better as a guitarist, because you're learning what you need to learn by being out there doing the job, playing with other musicians and stuff. Books for technique, I think the John Petrucci stuff was really the only or Frank Gambale, sorry. Hey Jason, thank you very much. That's awesome. We just had a Chinese, so that will help with that. What would be, yeah, so Frank Gambale has a chop builder, which is quite a useful little tool for building some kind of guitar stuff. Yeah, John Petrucci's Rock Discipline, I think, has some use. But I guess also YouTube wasn't really a thing when I was learning guitar, and I think there's definitely some useful stuff there, whether you're looking at someone like Tom Quayle or David Beebe. Those guys have really useful stuff. Also Jake Wilson has some great stuff, Dan Smith, all the guys from the Guitar Hour podcast are actually pretty serious about teaching and doing a good job of it, so they've put together some really cool stuff. I might look at those guys for some technique stuff. Andy Wood as well, obviously for like the alternate picking stuff, might be a great resource. Troy Grady might be a good resource for picking stuff. Rick Graham as well, great resource for bits and pieces. And I think those are some examples of things that, yeah, I don't know if books are the best way to get across some technique stuff. I think that maybe videos can also really help, or, you know, specific kind of bits and pieces to take you through, you know, like a syllabus for whatever. So, you know, whether that be hybrid picking, like Dan Smith has done one on that, or legato, where Tom Quayle and David Beebe have done pretty extensive lessons on that sort of stuff. I think that'd be useful for most people that are looking to do a deep dive on those techniques. So that might be where I'd look, maybe. But yeah, I guess also one of the key things is I wouldn't necessarily get too lost in the technique stuff. If you can find other people to play music with, and maybe find a band and stuff like that, I think that could be probably more useful than crazy technique. If you look at a player like John Mayer, for example, or, you know, countless great blues guitarists with great careers, they're not necessarily the most sort of technically focused players. You know, you're not necessarily going to see them sweep picking or any of these bits and pieces, or just any great players. They don't all have, you know, blazing legato or whatever it is that you might want. So I don't let technique be the only thing you're working on, if that makes sense, because I think it's actually not necessarily as important as some things. You know, it's more important to try and get something going musically, probably. She had you booked to watch the Lord of the Rings Two Towers, so that took you a week. I guess like things like playing in time and you know, bending in tune, at least as important as being able to play fast, and, you know, are not necessarily things that people talk about loads. Right, so any last questions? I guess we've been going for a bit over an hour now, so probably better go and do something else. Feel free to just ask a question quickly before I lose the will to whatever. 2 albums recorded. Yeah, there are a few bits and pieces. If you go on SoundCloud, there's a bunch of stuff. If you go on Bandcamp, there's a few things. Spotify, there's a few things. So I've done a few bits and pieces. But it's not necessarily that easy to find the motivation to do that sort of stuff. Because it doesn't necessarily get much attention at the level that I'm at. So at the moment, a lot of my focus is on improvised music. So where did I learn the Eric Johnson style cascading descending runs, where there's groupings of 3s and 5s? So I've not really done any specific Eric Johnson lines that descend in that way. There are a few like that sort of thing though. So there's some lessons on my channel about pentatonic scales, I think. Pentatonic. And in that kind of series, I've done like a few videos called Getting More Out of Pentatonic Scales. That has got a few like exercises in that style that might be useful if you're interested in that. There's Troy Grady's got a really what am I saying? Troy Grady's gone into a lot of detail into how he actually picks stuff. Myself personally, I like to pick groups of 5 but in even time. Instagram. At the moment, I'm not really doing many Skype lessons. So yeah, I'm not a particularly haven't really looked at any specific Eric Johnson cascading stuff except for what happens in like tunes like Manhattan. Play anymore. No, I would say the EJ runs are mostly like 16th based, so you're doing like or they could be sextuplet based, so the best way to develop speed is to work on speed. So, you know, sit with a metronome for many years and gradually increase the tempo, that sort of thing. People these days talk about like burst exercises. Those weren't really talked about when I was learning to play fast, but could be valid. But I used to work specifically on just trying to do that sort of thing really fast. That kind of thing, I think that maybe gets your fingers moving fast to start with. Whether it's useful or not, I don't know, but that was the sort of thing I used to do a lot of when I was younger. And now I try and do a little bit more complicated stuff. That sort of thing. I've been listening to recently, Sleep Token, that sort of stuff. I've been listening to a little bit. So Simon JP Mason, have you ever been injured from speed practice? Any tips for rehab? Cheers. No, but you have to be a bit careful, I think. So what you might find is you start to develop sort of tightness in your left hand in some ways. So you just have to be careful and maybe consider what else you're doing outside of the guitar. So, you know, if you've been spending a day doing like hard labour, your left hand is probably not going to be super useful when it comes to trying to play super fast. So just be a bit careful. How many years did I play? I've been playing since 1997, something like that, a long time. Implementation of drum rudiments on guitar worthwhile? The issue would be that they're mostly sort of right hand based, and you know, like a paradiddle in the right hand is not necessarily the sort of thing that you're going to use a lot of in real life. I've not really heard of any guitarists talking about using drum rudiments or applying them on guitar particularly. What people do talk about are things like rest strokes, like from the gypsy jazz world, or these days they talk about things like what's it called, selective picking. These things apply. So maybe from the bass world there's a few tips and tricks that you could use, but I don't know, you could maybe do some stuff with paradiddles. I don't know, would that be useful? Might be useful. The other thing is it might create some sort of creative spark in your head where you figure out a riff from it. So it might be a useful exercise from that point of view anyway. Could be a fun little exercise. That sort of thing. Anyway, hopefully that's vaguely interesting to one or two of you. Hopefully this was a useful and fulfilling experience. I'm joking. Thank you for joining me on this live stream. This is the first proper one that we've done in this new space, so hopefully it sounds alright and works okay. Thank you for dropping by. Thanks to Sam and Jason for dropping the, what's it called now? Super chat tip, whatever it's called. Really appreciate that. Jason, I'll be chatting to you anyway. And I'll catch you soon for another one of these, I guess. Feel free to like or subscribe or whatever. And yeah, practice your paradiddles. Catch you in a little bit. Cheers.